The Hawks aren't a good ISO team. The Hawks were 25th in ISO points created this season. The Knicks were 7th. Slow the game down, force the Hawks into ISO, and the Knicks should have a fairly easy series.
Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew Sistad, Brad unite. Philly and Y in the spotlight.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 104. It is the New York Knicks versus the Atlanta Hawks preview for a series that starts on Saturday. For you Knicks fans, I'm going to get you all set. Everything you need to know about the Hawks, a deep dive into what's going right with the Knicks, what's going wrong, concerns that we have about the Knicks going into this series with the Hawks. We're going to primarily focus on this series specifically. We'll get into the potential series down the road as they come. I'll get you all. I'll set the stage for you. Everything you need to know about the series, what to look for on starting on Saturday in Game 1. If you're new to the podcast, please give us a like. Please subscribe, we're gonna have a bunch of Knicks playoff content throughout the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, the next couple of months into June, you'll get a lot of analytical reaction from me, a lot of emotional reaction as a diehard Knicks fan from me. And he's not on this podcast, but my podcast host, as a Sixers fan and Knicks hater, you'll get to see him melt down as the Knicks continue to advance and the Sixers are eliminated. So please subscribe. And we'll have more Knicks content. We also have a bunch of other content, New York, Philly sports rivalry stuff that we take care of or that we cover on the podcast. So anyway, let's set the stage here for you. Knicks Hawks. Knicks are the 3 seed. The Hawks are the 6 seed. It looked like the Knicks were going to get the Raptors in round 1, which would have been the preference. Hawks, a team that the Knicks should definitely be a team. Something we're going to talk about. The Knicks are a much more talented team, a much more skilled team than the Hawks. But the Hawks do have players that they have some impact players on both sides of the court. They have players with a diverse skill set, and you put it all together, it's actually a very, very strong team, and not someone that the Knicks fans should be overlooking and looking ahead at round 2 against the Celtics. So I'll go through a bunch of different things. I'll set the stage about the team. I'll go a deep dive about the Knicks roster, them going to the playoffs, where they stand. I'll talk about what to watch out for the Hawks. We'll talk about determining factors in the series. I'll dive into, because I had subscriber questions about what happens if the Knicks lose this series. So I'll talk about that as well. I'll wrap up with my series prediction. In each segment, I'm going to refer to a few subscriber questions that are relevant to the segment. I had a bunch come in, so if I didn't get to you, I apologize, but I think I got to most of them, at least in some form. I'll get to most of them in some way, even if it's not directly mentioning your question or a direct answer to your question, but it's kind of a gray area or close to answering your question in a sense. So, to set the stage, Knicks 53-29, 3 seed, net rating, overall net rating of 5th, offensive net rating of 3rd, defensive net rating of 7th. The Atlanta Hawks 46-36, a net rating of 12, offensive rating 14th, defensive rating 9th. Let's get into the Knicks a little bit. To start with, I think, and most of you that are tuning in are Knicks fans, you want to hear the Knicks angle and Knicks perspective. So let's kind of set the stage. I'll give you some thoughts on how I view the Knicks going into the playoffs right now, and what the statistics, what the metrics say about the Knicks going to the playoffs as well. So, something to mention right off the bat: since Christmas, the Knicks are 13-10 against top 6 teams. I'm saying since Christmas because that's something I bring up about the Hawks in that same span. And I think that's when teams start to develop. You get through like the early stages, understanding a new scheme or understanding the chemistry. With the Hawks, we'll get to them. They made some pretty big changes to their roster. So they traded KP. Traded off Trae Young. brought in CJ McCollum. But anyway, sticking on the Knicks. But we just since Christmas, Knicks are 13-10 against top 6 teams. That's important to know. A lot of the narrative, the rhetoric I hear from my fellow Knicks fans is that they're bad against top teams. Since Christmas, the 13-10 overall in the season, they're I think against over 500 team or playoff teams are 22-12. So that narrative isn't really true. They beat the Nuggets by 30 points, 30 plus points twice. They have a lot of really nice wins throughout the season, but they have also, to be fair, have had some really bad showings against some of the top teams like the Pistons. Not that we include the Hawks in one of these top 6 teams anyway, but one of the main things that I think that as the season developed really late in the season, because through last year and then most of this season, the big issue was the Knicks' best 2 players don't play well off each other. We talked about in this podcast a lot. Brunson and Cat just don't play well off each other. They just don't make each other better. They both play better with the other one on the bench. So that's changed. Mike Brown started having the Knicks. He kind of jump-started this duo by making a switch that I don't know why credit to Mike Brown for making it. They didn't make it at all with Tibbs last year. It took Mike Brown a while to make the adjustment. Instead of just doing the straight pick and roll or pick and pop, it's with Brunson and Cat. They decided to do the dribble handoff, the DHO with Cat. So Cat has the ball, Brunson comes around him, and what it's done, it's opened up a bunch of things. No one wants to go underneath that and give Brunson the 3, so they fight over it. But you don't want to overcommit because then you let Cat. You don't want to overcommit to Brunson, then give Cat the driving lane, which he loves to do. And then if you try to stick on Cat and overcommit on Brunson, what they do is they bring a second player off ball, setting a screen, and then Brunson goes back door. And Cat's done a great job of finding Brunson on those backdoor cuts. And it's really opened up a lot of 2-and-1s down low. It's been a lot of open 3s off of it. And even just something about the flow and the confidence and chemistry between them, that dribble handoff play is kind of led to this just renewed chemistry or newfound chemistry between the two of them. It's now just straight up pick and roll, pick and pops. Brunson hitting Cat on rolling to the basket. He's had a bunch of finishes at the rim off that in the last few games. Going into the playoffs, the point is this: the Cat JB combo, the duo, for the first time in 2 years, you feel very good about. This is going to give the Hawks, this is going to give teams in the playoffs a big, big problem. Something they have to figure out how to stop when that was not something you were concerned about up until maybe a couple of weeks ago. So that's, as a Knicks fan, I think in terms of a deep player front, forgetting about the series for a second, that is something that I think has to make you feel pretty good. And hopefully it continues in the playoffs. In general, as an offensive concept, the Knicks have really, as the season has gone on, really, really emphasized and worked around this on-ball screens into their offense. Check out this stat. Since February 1st, second half of the season, essentially. Here's where the Knicks pick and roll on-ball screen duos rank in terms of optimizing their offensive net ratings. Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, that on-ball screen duo, first since February 1st in the NBA. Alvarado and Cat, 5th. Brunson and Mitch, 8th. Brunson and Hart, 10th. That is really impressive, and it just shows that the Knicks, as a concept and offensive philosophy, have completely emphasized and bought into the on-ball screen, pick and roll, pick and pop type offense. And it makes sense because the Knicks have a lot of shooters to space the floor. I'm going to work in a couple questions here from subscribers. So kind of what I just talked about at MJ Mike, are you concerned about the Cat and Brunson? Is Cat and Brunson going to be able to keep up this duo, this newfound success with a physical wing on Cat. So the question is a good one because a lot of the success has been with like fours or five, like big men on Cat, which he's always had success with. So it's a good question. Staying focused on this, taking this question and making it about this Hawks series, and I'll get to it more, but the Hawks don't really have that physical wing to put on Cat. I think it's going to be a big Cat series for that reason, which I'll get to more in a little bit. But in general, going forward, it's a concern. We'll see how they adapt and how they adjust. But it's not a concern with the Hawks. The Hawks have great perimeter defenders, great guard defenders, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels. They don't have these big physical wings. Jalen Johnson's a great dynamic offensive player. We'll get into him. He's not a big physical wing that you put on Cat. MJ Mikes has his second question. Are you concerned about the inconsistency of this team throughout the regular season? And do you think that's going to show up in the playoffs? I am concerned about that. And it's been a problem all season. And look, I think there's a couple of reasons for it. I think partly it's because there's just they just lose focus and intensity. I think that's happened a lot throughout the season. Part of that might be because they realized early on they weren't getting the 1 seed. They know it's about the playoffs, it's about being healthy for the playoffs. They've been on, 2 really nice playoff runs back-to-back years. They know the goal is to go to the finals and really win the finals. So it's easy. It makes it more difficult to be locked in for the regular season. Also, they're the coach. I mean, Tibbs would not accept anything less than your 100% effort every regular season game. If you weren't locked in, Tibbs you just had to be locked in with Tibbs. Mike Brown is a much more casual approach to the regular season, much more player friendly, less crazy minutes all through for these big players, much bigger rotations, which leads to losing more regular season games. It leads to some uneven play in the regular season, and that's okay when you win 53 games. That's part of it. Part of it is in the first half specifically, the Knicks were shooting a ton of threes. They still shoot a lot of threes, but as the years have gone on, they've shot less threes. In the first half of the year, it was a lot of if they're making their threes, they're amazing. If they're not, they're struggling. Like I said, it's changed in the second half, but that was part of the inconsistency in the first half. Was just, are they making their shots or not? So I also think there's another aspect of that inconsistency, and I think it's simply Cat. Cat has days or nights where he's just on. Offensively, defensively, he's locked in, he's shooting the ball well, he's engaged. And then there's games for whatever reason he's just not. She's not feeling it. He's not. Maybe there's something going on physically. Maybe whatever it may be mentally. I think that's the biggest difference, and that's a concern. And even in the playoffs last year, we saw Cat win that one game. Right, that was against the Pistons or the Celtics? I can't remember. I think it was the Pistons. And we've seen Cat just no show. And that happened a lot this season. So that part of it is a little bit of a concern. We're going to get into all the players. I think we know that we can reasonably expect Jalen Brunson to be incredible in this series and in every playoff series that they may play in. It's not as reasonable to expect Cat to do the same, at least not on a game-to-game basis. So I think that's the reason for concern consistently. The other aspect, them being locked in, the intensity, the effort, all that, I'm not concerned about that in the playoffs at all. And I'm also not concerned. Lost my train of thought. I'm not. Oh yeah, the rotation's obviously going to be. It's going to be shortened. The bench is going to be short, and they're going to use less guys. The bigger guys are going to play bigger minutes, especially the clutch, down the stretch. So I'm less concerned. Oh, and one other thing about the inconsistency throughout the season is you saw a lot of that, in the games Mitch wasn't playing. You're not going to have back-to-backs. You're not going to have Mitch rest nights in the playoffs. So that's a big thing. And I also think you're going to get a better Mitchell Robinson, which I think will impact the inconsistency problems as well in the regular season. But again, a slight concern, not a huge concern. I think a lot of it was just focus, intensity, being locked in, not locked in a lot throughout the regular season, and I expect that to happen in the playoffs. Again, just like this is basketball, so if you make your threes or you miss your threes, that does impact how you're playing offensively. But I think as the Knicks went on in the second half, as the season developed, they really leveled out the 3-point attempts. I think they finished like the 12th or 10th most 3-point attempts in the NBA per game or something like that, or possession. I don't know. The point is that they shoot threes, but relative to the rest of the NBA, they don't shoot like this crazy amount of threes that they came out to start the season doing. All right, let's get to what to watch for with the Atlanta Hawks. So, a couple things. Just to give you an idea of their play style. So, the Hawks as a team, it's a kind of an interesting team. The Knicks have a lot more like complete, like well-balanced players. So, for instance, like you got like OG and Bridges. They can score. They're definitely offensive threats. You have to watch out for them and be prepared to stop them. They play good defense on the perimeter. They play good off ball. They can do a lot of different things. They shoot threes. They shoot twos. The Hawks have a lot of players that are really, really good, like specialized at one or two things, and then don't do the other things really good. But when you but it meshes together really well. Like CJ McCollum's a great, like he play makes and he shoots from the outside, but he's not a very good defender, on-ball defender. Dyson Daniels is an elite on-ball defender. Gets a lot of steals, creates a lot of havoc. He doesn't shoot the 3-ball. He doesn't shoot it. He's not a great one-on-one offensive player, but he's a great offensive rebounder. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's kind of that one player, that role player that kind of does everything. And then obviously Jalen Johnson's like their primary offensive player. We'll get into him a little bit more. But that's kind of what you're looking at. You're just looking at a combination, a team that really, the skills mesh really well together to make them, as a sum of its parts, really good. But each individual part has flaws outside of Jalen Johnson. The season turned. So the Hawks, they made that offseason trade. They wanted a big man. They traded for KP. It didn't work. They moved off it. They moved off Trae Young, who they really had to move on from Trae Young. They were worse with him, and they've been worse with Trae Young for a couple of years. He was bringing a team that was a really good defensive team down, and he was taking away from their best offensive player, Jalen Johnson. So let's just say they traded Trae Young, they traded KP, they acquired CJ McCollum. So a lot of the stats I'm going to give you for the Hawks is going to be from the time that CJ McCollum made his Hawks debut, because it's a different team. So I think it's important to separate the two. Since CJ McCollum made his Hawks debut, the Hawks own the 7th best point differential in the entire NBA, with the 12th ranked offense and 7th ranked defense. In that span, 27 and 15. Since Christmas, again, it's just a relative date where teams, where how you play style, chemistry, scheme really is developed at that point. I mean, it always continues to develop, but it's largely developed by that point. So just a rough line in the sand. Since Christmas, the Hawks had a 7-12 record against top 6 teams, though. Now, out of their 7 wins, one was the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell, one was with the Timberwolves without Ant, and one was against the Pistons without Cade. One was the Celtics without Tatum and Kata. So that's 4 of those 7 wins against top 6 teams weren't really those top 6 teams. So they struggle against the elite teams. That's the point I'm making here. They have done a great job of beating up on good teams, but the elite teams, which the Knicks are one of them, they have struggled against. Regarding this, I have a bunch of things to get to. One subscriber question at Alex Marks: which Hawks player needs to be accounted for most? Well, I think most people most Knicks fans I know, even diehard Knicks fans, spend a lot of times watching the Knicks. They watch games. They know about the really polished brand names in the NBA. They know Jalen Johnson, but I don't know how much they really know of Jalen Johnson. On my last podcast with Sistad, my podcast co-host, he kind of laughed off Jalen Johnson, and the reason he did is because he doesn't know. So let me give you some stats about Jalen Johnson. Before I do that, Knicks fans, this is important to know. And if you're Hawks fans, that are tuning in, you'll obviously agree with this. Jalen Johnson is a top 15 player in the NBA. Jalen Johnson is undoubtedly going to be on one of the All NBA teams. Maybe the second team, maybe the third team. Jalen Johnson is depending on how you want to use the term superstar, he is at the very least a borderline superstar. He is an incredibly gifted offensive player. He is a huge bag, different types of moves, dribbles, footwork. He's creative. He makes tough shots, contested shots. He is a dynamic offensive player that isn't just a scorer. He creates. He has great vision, great handles. Take a look at his 22.5 points per game, 49% field goal shooting, 35% three. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but he is not a zero there. You have to guard it. You can't just leave him open. Now, it might be your strategy is to make him shoot threes, considering how great he is at everything else. But continuing on the stats, 8 assists a game, 10 rebounds per game, a net rating of plus 2.9. So they're basically they're 3 points better per 100 possessions with Jalen Johnson on the court, which is among the league leaders in net rating. So Jalen Johnson's the player to account for. I'll get into some other players to account for as well. When you're talking about the Hawks, Knicks fans, you got to know. You want to know what you're dealing with. So let's start with Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels, the last 2 years, has led the NBA in steals per game by a large margin. This year, he was second in steals. Dyson Daniels is one of the premier on-ball guard defenders. Now, you're not going to put him on Cat. At least I don't expect him to. I'd be pretty surprised. He's going to be the main Jalen Brunson defender. And he's done a really good job on Jalen Brunson. I also read an article about how Dyson Daniels has so much respect for Jalen Brunson. Apparently he told Fred Katz of The Athletic that Dyson Daniels told him his 2 favorite players to guard because of the challenge in the NBA is Brunson and Kyrie Irving, and it's because every time you think that you have them you have them covered, they do something different that you've never seen before. I didn't even know that was a thing that an offensive player could do, and you learn, okay, now I have to figure out how to stop that. So he's a ton of respect for Brunson. He is a guy that loves playing man-to-man defense and shutting down primary ball handlers and playmakers. Dyson Daniels will give Jalen Brunson fits in this series. He's also incredibly off the ball, deflections. He was second in the NBA in deflections. This year, over the last 3 years, he leads the NBA in deflections. Offensively, he's not great. You can theoretically hide Brunson on him. He doesn't shoot the three at all. He's not a good outside shooter at all. He's pretty big and strong. He could probably muscle up against Brunson given the opportunity. But the real issue, I think, with putting Brunson on him or anyone on him, something to look out, is Dyson Daniels crashes the offensive glass at a very high rate. He's a great offensive rebounder. If you saw the Knicks games against the Hawks this year, you noticed it. He's a high-end offensive rebounder. So you got to have someone that whoever's guarding him has to put a body on him, has to make sure that once the shot goes up, the possession's not over. So something to look out for Dyson Daniels, not only as a defender, but as an offensive rebounder in this series. Next up is one of the premier role players in the NBA, and he had a weird year last year. He wasn't, but he's been for years. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think to call him a role player at this point is probably an understatement. It's kind of an insult. He's not just a role player, not on this team at least. He is a great player. He's 20.8 points, 21 points per game. Shot 46%, 40% from three. He's an elite 3-point shooter, elite from the corners, elite from the wings. And if we want to call Dyson Daniels one of the premier defensive guards, well, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's just a step or a notch below that. Another great on-ball defender. So they can, to keep them both fresh, they could switch between them on Brunson. Again, another guy, great off-ball, deflections, steals. It is among, if not the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. It is very close to the best. So, and again, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he can score, he can drive, he can shoot, great 3-point shooter. He is someone to really watch out for. Other than that, I mean, look, you got CJ McCollum. So CJ McCollum, you must be familiar with CJ McCollum, right? He's been around for a while. Obviously, played all those years with Dame in Portland. He's found himself a really nice niche since being traded. Like I talked about, like how much this team evolved once they traded KP and Trey and brought in CJ McCollum. Well, he was great. 18.7 points per game, 45.6 field goal, 35.73. He is a microwave guy. He can come in and hit 7 or 8 threes in a game and ruin the game. So, interesting enough, they don't have like, after trading Trae Young, they don't have like a real like your traditional point guard. CJ McCollum's their smallest player that in their rotation, so he ends up doing a lot of ball handling. And the thing, they mix it up. Like Jalen Johnson's their best offensive player. They run the offense through him, but he's not one of these like guys who like pounds the ball a lot. Like it's not just get out of his way. They do a lot of different schemes, a lot of ball movement. Not necessarily in the sense of like a lot of passes per possession, which I have a stat on later. But they do a lot of different actions, a lot of different off-ball screens. Again, to go back to Nickeil Alexander-Walker for a second, an excellent screener. Off-ball screens, on-ball screens, something to really, really watch out for. So, CJ McCollum, a guy that he can come in and ruin the game with his shooting, with his scoring. So you definitely want to keep him down. That said, if we're talking about like, how do you stop him? Like CJ McCollum's a great scorer, is a microwave scorer. How do you stop him? Who do you put on him? I think that depends on the game script. How is he playing? How is he shooting? You could put someone like Bridges on him. You could put someone like you can put Hart on him. Or if he's not having a very impactful game, you can, hide, in air quotes, Jalen Brunson on him. I don't want to hide Jalen Brunson on CJ McCollum, but just from a size perspective, I think that might be the most sensible guy to put Brunson on. Unless he's, on one of his heaters, then you got to really lock him down. So, last player, Okonkwo. Okonkwo is like their big man. He's going to be in their matchups in the regular season against the Hawks. Okonkwo is the guy that's been on Cat. So that's probably what they're going to do mostly. I'll get into that Cat matchup later. Okonkwo, 15 points per game, shot 48%. Yes, this year he really broke out as a 3-point shooter, shot 37.6% from three. I remember like the first matchup against the Knicks, like Cat just kept playing drop in the pick and pop, and Okonkwo just kept leaving him open, thinking he doesn't shoot. And Okonkwo can shoot the three this year. He developed a 3-point shot. It's for real. 37.6% is legitimate. So he's a solid rebounder. He's a very good 3-point shooter. So he's not someone that Cat or Mitch can just drop off of in the pick and pop. So they do a lot. Then the Hawks do on-ball screens for everyone. They set on-ball screens for McCollum. They set on-ball screens for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They set them for Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels. A little bit less of an extent to Risha Shea, but the Hawks have players. Like Jalen Johnson's their dynamic star player that they run the offense through, but they do a lot of different actions, a lot of different things. They have a lot of different players that could score and beat you in any given game. So something to watch out for the series. You might see at some point, I'd expect all these guys to have a big impact on the series, the guys I just mentioned. So let's move on. Determining factors in this series. I have a few bullet points here that I want to get to. So the turnover battle. So I think Knicks fans, the Knicks over the last few years were really good at not turning the ball over. Part of that reason is because their best playmaker, the guy who has the ball the most, Jalen Brunson, doesn't turn the ball over. There's a lot of reasons behind that. Part of it is because he doesn't make a lot of risky passes. Part of it is because the way he dribbles the ball is very low to the floor, very, very low, which makes it hard for opponents to knock it away, at least not with stealing or hitting the hand. Since the All-Star break, the Hawks are second in the NBA in forced turnovers. Both teams 10th in offensive turnovers. Knicks 16th since the All-Star break in forcing turnovers. So I guess the one thing I have a question about is, and I'm wondering is, like, I think I have an answer to this, is, do the Knicks need to win the turnover battle or just keep it close? I think with the amount of talent the Knicks have, the skill the Knicks have, the shot makers the Knicks have, and the offensive rebounders that we're going to get into later, I don't think the Knicks need to win the turnover battle, but they need to keep it close. They can't let Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker force a bunch of turnovers, a lot of fast breaks, and just, you can't get into a transition game with the Hawks. You want to keep the game. You want to slow the pace down. It's very important that the Knicks, they're the much better half-court team, the much worse transition team out of these two teams. You need to slow the pace down. And in the playoffs, usually the pace slows down in it, just based on the physicality that's allowed as well. So that's advantage Knicks. But something to watch out for is the Hawks down the stretch of the season caused a lot of havoc, and they have two players in the backcourt that cause a lot of havoc and force a lot of turnover. So something to watch out for. One thing that Dyson Daniels does, by the way, and I think you're knows for, most players, like defenders, they come try to swipe at the ball from like the side or the top. Dyson Daniels gets really low to the ground and lifts his hand, goes from the floor up, which is something that really works well for him, and it helps him avoid getting the arm or getting the wrist and fouling. He's really good at creating steals and really good at avoiding fouls and getting in foul trouble, which is a really, really, really great combination for on-ball defender. Ball movement as another determining factor in this series. So I got some stats here. The Hawks ranked third in assists per 100 possessions. So really good, right? And that makes sense. I was talking about all their actions, all their concepts they run. They're not like just, Jalen Johnson, they run the offense through him. It's not just pound the ball, give ISO, pound the ball, Jalen Johnson. The third in assists per 100 possessions. But 14th in passes per 100 possessions. So they're not making a bunch of passes. They make passes with a very specific intention. They don't make a bunch of passes just to get into the action, to get into the matchup. Most of their passing is done with the intent of scoring. And it makes sense because they, like I said, they're better. They're more of a transition team, not as successful in the half court. So the Knicks, by the way, ranked 7th in passes per 100 possessions. Which may surprise you just because of they do have a guy that just pounds the ball, Jalen Brunson. But the Knicks do a lot of work to get the matchups they want, to get Brunson the matchup he wants, to get Cat the matchup they want. The Knicks make several passes to get into their main action, so to speak. Some transition. I think I mentioned transition already. Something to watch out. This is a big factor in this series. So since January 11th, again, that's when CJ McCollum made his Hawks debut. The Hawks are number 1 in the NBA in points added per possession in transition. They are 4th in offense off of steals and 2nd in offense off of live rebounds. So, well, let me add to that. Defensively, the Knicks are 19th in points added per possession in transition, so not good. They are 7th off of steals and 28th off of live rebounds. So, okay. Part of this, I think, is the 28th off of live rebounds. That's really bad. I think that the Knicks will be more locked in the playoffs, and that won't happen as much. But that is something to really emphasize. If you're Mike Brown, if you're the Knicks game planning or putting a game plan together for the series, the Hawks like to go get the rebound and go. And you got to be prepared. Get back on defense. Or counteract it by just dominating the offensive glass, which I think is a really, really another big factor is the Hawks don't have great big men. And Okonkwo is good, but other than that, they don't have any. They have good offensive rebounders. They crash the glass, but in terms of defensive rebounding, the Hawks are very vulnerable there. The Knicks obviously have the best offensive rebounder in the NBA in Mitchell Robinson. Cat's he's second in the NBA in rebounds overall. He is a great rebounder, a great offensive rebounder. Obviously, Josh Hart and how he is as a rebounding guard. The Knicks have an opportunity in this series to dominate the offensive glass. Mitchell Robinson and Cat specifically have an opportunity to absolutely dominate the boards, both offense and defensive boards. So I think that's a huge determining factor. If Mitch is the Mitch that we've seen in the playoffs, if Cat's the Cat rebounding from a rebounding perspective that he's been all season, the Knicks are going to win the series just based on that, just how much they're going to dominate the boards. And that leads me to my next question. Who is guarding Cat? I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, alluded to it earlier, like I was going to get to this. This seems to me like a Cat series. This seems like Okonkwo can't guard Cat. You want to put Jalen Johnson on Cat? I mean, yeah, sure. Jalen Johnson's not necessarily a great defender. You could do that, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work. And then if you do that, like, who is Okonkwo on? Like, who is he guarding? Is he on Bridges? Is he like on OG? Like, I think it's the thing is, it's not like last year you can just put him on Hart, because Hart shot the three ball really well this year. I don't think the plan for the Hawks coming into the series is going to be leave Hart open. Now it might not. It might be like it might develop that into that if he's not shooting well early in the series. But I don't think the game plan for the Hawks defensively is going to be just play off Josh Hart. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think they should. I don't think they're going to expect that to work, given that Hart shot 37% from three this year. So back to the question. I don't know who's going to go. I think if they're going to go with Okonkwo, I don't think he's going to do very well. They might go with a little bit of Jalen Johnson. Can they put on one Dyson Daniels or Nickeil Alexander-Walker? They could, but those guys are small. They're good at defending guards. I don't like the type of wing that you put on Cat is like a long physical wing. It's not a smaller guard. I don't see it. I think this is going to be a huge Cat series, but I think that's going to be a big determining factor. Who's going to guard him? How are they going to guard him? And how is Cat going to be locked in? Is he going to exploit it? Is he going to be overly aggressive and exploiting and not let the game come to him? Really important factor in the series. From the Knicks' perspective, defensively, who's guarding Jalen Johnson? I mean, he's an elite defender. Who's guarding him? Now, the Knicks have one absolutely elite on-ball defender. That's OG Anunoby. They have other ones that are good, but with some flaws, Bridges and Hart. Deuce as well. Deuce is probably too small for Jalen Johnson. Maybe they'll have Deuce on him a little bit when he's on the court. But my guess here is that Mike Brown's going to do a mix. He's going to mix it up throughout the games, throughout the series. I think you'll get a lot of OG on him. I think you'll get some Bridges on him. I think you'll get a good amount of Hart on him. Now, here's why. Something that Mike Brown did this year that was vastly different than Tibbs. A lot of things are like pretty similar, by the way, but one of the things that's vastly different, obviously the rotation, but is he had OG and Bridges playing off ball, like not on the primary defender on the opponent's best playmaker or ball handler very often. And the reason he did that is because Bridges is incredible off ball. Deflections, rotating. Bridges is incredible off ball, helping him getting blocks as well. OG's just elite at everything defensively. He's elite on ball, he's elite off ball, but the OG's anticipation is incredible, and it just him off ball and Bridges off ball leads to a lot of turnovers. It leads to a lot of fast break points, which the Knicks don't do a lot of, except when Bridges and OG created. So the reason you do a lot of Josh Hart on Jalen Johnson is you have OG coming to help, Bridges coming to help, OG and Bridges kind of playing off ball. I kind of think that they're going to do more of OG on him because, as I've mentioned already, Jalen Johnson is not one of these like pounded into the ground, keep dribbling stars. Like that's not his game. He plays a lot of off ball. So by having OG on Jalen Johnson, he's kind of is playing off ball a lot. So I think you're going to get a mix of things, but I think you're going to get a large dose of OG Anunoby on Jalen Johnson. And I feel pretty good about that matchup. I don't know how you cannot. I mean, Jalen Johnson's incredible. Knicks fans, if you don't know yet, you're going to find out. He is a shot maker. He has a lot of tricks in the bag, but you got to feel pretty good about OG on him. And even, Hart and then OG or Bridges helping, or depending on who's in the game at the time, like off the bench. But OG, Hart, or Bridges, one or two of them is going to be in the game at all times. So I feel pretty good about OG on Jalen Johnson and just the defensive matchups on Jalen Johnson coming to the series. Another determining factor I have here is ISO ball. So ISO becomes much more prominent in the playoffs, largely because players are allowed to be more physical on screens, allowed to be more physical on guys in the post. Off ball, there's a lot of tugging and holding, and it's just kind of allowed, or at least on the spectrum of what's allowed and not, it's a lot more physicality is allowed. So that leads to a lot of ISO ball in the playoffs. The Hawks aren't a good ISO team. The Hawks were 25th in ISO points created this season. The Knicks were 7th. So slow the game down, force the Hawks into ISO, and the Knicks should have a fairly easy series. Speaking about slowing the game down, half-court offense, since January 11th, again, that's the CJ McCollum Hawks debut, this is half-court offense points per play. So in the half-court offense, points per play, the Knicks ranked 5th, the Hawks 13th. Again, slow the game down. That's the fact. That's the goal for the Knicks. My last bullet point, the determining factor here is no other than Jalen Brunson. So I have two subscriber questions regarding Jalen Brunson. Now, before we get into the subscriber questions regarding Jalen Brunson, it's obvious why he's here. He's the Knicks' best player. He's one of the best, 10 players in the NBA. He's one of the best 5 or 6 offensive players in the NBA. He's the number one player that the Hawks are game planning on. They're focused on. How do we stop Jalen Brunson? He has been incredible in the playoffs. He was incredible again all season this year. Jalen Brunson is their Knicks franchise player. He's been amazing in the clutch. He's amazing in the fourth quarter. The Knicks are the number 1 ranked fourth quarter team in the NBA, largely because of Jalen Brunson. It's obvious why he's a determining factor in the series. And look, again, Dyson Daniels is not only is he one of the greatest, the best perimeter on-ball defenders in the NBA, but he's also the ideal matchup for Brunson. Long arms, size, incredible intellect, basketball IQ, understanding, watching film. He is the perfect kryptonite for Jalen Brunson. But I still expect Jalen Brunson to figure it out and be amazing. Even if he struggles early in the series. This is Jalen Brunson. We've seen him struggle early in playoff series. We saw it against Kelly Oubre and the Sixers, and then he lights it up. Because this is Jalen Brunson, and he will adjust, and he will figure it out. And Jalen Brunson is going to be the best player in this series, and I'm pretty confident about that. That doesn't mean he's going to necessarily have the most points. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to statistically have the best numbers in the series, but he is going to have the biggest impact because the Hawks are going to be ultra focused and concerned about Jalen Brunson. So he has to be a determining factor here because he is Jalen Brunson. So that leads me to 2 subscriber questions from the same subscriber at D Kelts. So he asked 2 questions. The first, I guess it's kind of combined in one question, so I'll just go over them both. How many points per game does Brunson need to average this series for Knicks to win? And should he trust his teammates more than previous playoff fourth quarters? So, okay. In terms of how many points per game, I don't know about an exact number, but I actually, as I've talked about the Cat matchup, I don't think this is a Brunson needs to score series. I think this is Brunson needs to let the game come to him, run the offense, play. Come trap me. You're gonna trap me. Okay, I'm gonna ditch it to Hart in the middle. I'm gonna ditch it to Cat. I'm gonna ditch it to Bridges. I'm gonna ditch it to dish it to OG. Like, I don't think this is this series, this matchup, given their elite perimeter guard defenders. I don't think this requires a Jalen Brunson elite scoring series. I think this requires a Jalen Brunson command the offense, run the offense series. I think this is a huge Cat series offensively. I think this is a huge OG series because I'm not sure who they're gonna have on OG. If it's Jalen Johnson, OG should be able to take him one-on-one. He should be able to outmuscle him. He should be able to drive past him. Jalen Johnson, as much as I talked about how great of an offensive player is, he's vulnerable defensively. So I think this is a Cat scoring series. I think it's an OG scoring series. I think this is a Jalen Brunson playmaking command and run the offense and just dominate from an impact focus standpoint. Like, the focus of the Hawks is on Brunson. They're going to trap him. They're going to put their best defender on him, command the offense, make the right play, let Cat and OG dominate scoring. Obviously, he's going to score. I mean, obviously, he's going to score over 20 points. So, I mean, obviously, but I don't think this requires like a 35-point per game Jalen Brunson dominant type scoring series. I think now, if they do advance, I think that's going to come as they advance. But second part of that question: should he trust his teammates more than previous playoff fourth quarters? So I think last year he did. Like, I think last year down the stretch of games in the playoffs, he showed a lot of trust in his teammates. I think it was 2 years ago where that in that last game against the Pacers, or not. That was 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. Where he had like Josh Hart wide open for three and didn't pass and then took a shot. I think in general, he does trust. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because he's been efficiency-wise and volume-wise a top 3 offensive player in the clutch for the last 3 years now, including the playoffs. So you want him to shoot. You want him to do his thing. You feel good about him in the pick and roll, good about him in the ISO. I mean, obviously, he had the shot against the Pistons to clinch that series. You feel really good about Brunson, but you also don't want him to force it. But a lot of times when he forces it, it's like there's a certain extent, like it's a spectrum. Like, there's a certain force shot or level of force shot from Brunson that's better than and a good look for someone else. But I do think he has to trust his teammates, including in the most important moments of the game and the most important moments of the series. And I think he does, and I think he will. But he's going to take shots that are contested over passing to someone who's not contested in the big moments. I think it's just a level of how contested he is, how uncontested is his teammate. But I do like the question because you have to make it play based on what the circumstances are, how the opponent is defending you and defending the team. It is very crucial that Jalen Brunson trusts his teammates in those biggest moments. And I think he will. All right, where are we now? I wanted to talk about Knicks. This is a question I've had. I had a subscriber question asked this, so I kind of wanted to make it a segment as well. What if the Knicks lose this series? So at Alex Marks, if the Knicks lose this series, what went wrong? So first, let me answer that. I have another subscriber question that led me to doing this segment. Let me answer that question first. So if I zoom out, what does a first-round exit actually mean? What transpired? Look, I don't believe in like jinxes or anything like that. Like, if I say as a Knicks fan, diehard Knicks fan, that I don't see how they're going to lose this series, I don't see them losing the series. I don't think like, oh, well, don't say that. Don't say that. Like, but I really do find it hard to see the Knicks losing this series. Like it would like, the way I like what if they lose in this series? What would have happened? Brunson gets hurt, maybe. Cat gets hurt, maybe. OG gets hurt, maybe. I still think they might win. I guess outside of injury, I guess it's just Cat is nowhere to be found. Like he goes back to like the middle of the season Cat that was like lost in this offense. And he goes back into like he actually had a very good defensive season, and he just goes back into being like this guy who just commits stupid fouls, gets into foul trouble. I guess that's it. But even then, I just feel like that's when Brunson becomes I have to score 30 points a game in this series, or that's just Mitch goes out and dominates. I find it hard to see the Knicks losing this series. I'm not saying they're going to easily win this series like sweep. I think the games will be very close. I think just about every game will be very close. But losing the series, I think it'd mostly be injury or just be a crazy bad Cat series. Which, look, if you're a skeptical Knicks fan and you don't like Cat, you probably hear that and think, I could see that happening. I personally can't, but I understand that a lot of Knicks fans and a lot of people, NBA fans in general, just kind of look down on Karl-Anthony Towns. So the other question about this I have, the other subscriber question is MJ Mike. What would happen if they lost in the first round from like in terms of the offseason moves, roster implications? So this is a preview of the first round matchup, but I would even expand this more than just the first round matchup. If they lost in the second round, if they even lost in the conference finals, I think that they would be full 100% in committed to doing what they can to bring in Giannis, which means breaking up this core. Other than Brunson, and everyone would be on the table. I don't think you'll see like a coaching change like Mike Brown, but I think that's it. I think the Knicks, and it's not just losing in the first round. I think they lose in the second round. They lose in the conference finals. Anything short of making the finals, I think you'll see them 100% committed to doing what they need to do to get Giannis here. I think that's the big thing. And if they make the finals and lose in the finals or win the championship, I don't think you'll see that at all. But I don't think it's a first round thing. I think it's not getting to the finals thing. Knicks fans would lose their mind. We'd lose them if they lost the series. It would ruin the whole season. And I'm not into like the whole like I enjoy the journey, but I think that would really ruin the season. I don't expect it to happen. I have two more things. One, I want to make my series prediction, but I also had another subscriber question that I just wanted to address real quickly. At Sean M, what do you think? What do you think about all these NBA fans and specifically Knicks fans that all of a sudden lock in for the playoffs that they're not paying attention all season? So the reason I like this question is because we kind of talked. I asked Sistad about this about the Flyers, how he was just all of a sudden like into the Flyers after not paying attention for years, and not paying attention all season. Those of you that listen to this podcast, those of you that know me personally, you know that I'm not the type of person at all to say, you should do this or you should not do this, or I don't care. If you're a Knicks fan that doesn't watch all season and you get locked in the playoffs, cool. Well, welcome. Let's enjoy it together. I don't care. Like, I don't understand why people. I really don't understand why people get mad at other people for doing something that they're doing. Like, it doesn't impact me. All right. I don't feel like, you don't deserve the enjoyment. Like, no. I will say this though. This is my opinion to answer the question. I do think there's a certain emotional now look, there's two types of emotional attachments as a diehard sports fan or a big sports fan that you have as the team's making a playoff run. One is you're emotionally attached to the franchise. So the deeper they go in the playoffs, the more fun it is, the more happy you are. They win a championship. It's great. It feels great. And you enjoy that journey. But the second is, and I think there's something really important about this. I think as a fan that you watch the 82 game season. Now, I'm not saying you're a crazy person like me and you watch 79 to 82 games. But you watch the majority of the regular season. You're really locked in on the regular season. There's a certain emotional attachment that you form to this specific season. Now, some people say, well, I don't get it. The team's pretty much the same as they were last year. I mean, they're not. First of all, it's not really true. They have a new head coach. They play differently. They have some different role players. But even though that's mainly true, each season is different. The journey of each season as a fan, and Knicks fans and sports fans in general that follow and watch their team in any of the four main sports all season long, know exactly what I'm talking about. There's each season is a little bit different, and you only get that emotional attachment by being locked in all season. Again, I'm not saying you need to be crazy like me and watch 79 of the 82 games, but when you watch a large majority of the season of the games, you develop this emotional attachment to this specific season, this specific team, instead of just like the franchise or like the concept of their team because the roster is similar from last year's playoff run. It's different. So basically to come full circle on this, what I think if you're only locking in for the playoffs, I think you're missing out on some of the great aspects, that great joy of a playoff run and a successful playoff run and winning playoff series. I think you get part of it, but you're missing out on something. That's fine. I don't care if that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that's what I think. I don't think you get the same enjoyment, the same level of enjoyment as you would if you were locked in all season. All right, so let's get to my prediction now. I'm going to make this quick. I think based on what I said, everyone knows here I'm going with the Knicks. New York Knicks in 5 games. I expect all 5 games to be close, at least going into the last 5 minutes or so. Maybe the Knicks pull away down the stretch in one of them. I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks lost by double digits and the going game they lose. I think Cat has a big series. I think OG has a big series. And the Knicks' talent and just skill over and shot making ability overwhelms the Atlanta Hawks, and the Knicks win in 5 games. Close games, but Knicks win 5 and advance to the second round. That's my prediction. So that's it, everyone. I hope you have a better sense for Knicks fans of what we're up against with the Hawks. Hawks fans tuning in, I hope you learn something about the Knicks and you have a better idea of what you're up against with the Knicks. I think it's going to be a fun series. The Knicks have to win this series, and I think the Knicks will win this series. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Please give us a like. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Let's go Knicks.
Philly pride insists that's all. Andrew rapping and Wild Bulls. Together they talk sports and dreams. Right behind the scenes. It seems. Philly and Wild. Give the call. Who's the greatest? Who will fall with this rivalry? Loud and clear. Join the chat. It's time to cheer. Sports and culture all in one. Catch the fire, feel the fun. Andrew, sis, that Brad unite.